So what is the purpose of life? It's a question that I feel we all ask ourselves day in, day out, right? Why are we here? What are we actually here for? Sometimes you have that feeling that you're destined for more than it seems like you're currently able to realize in this world. So how do we answer this question now? I was able to just simplify this for myself because it was a question I found myself asking more often recently than I ever had before. And it's complicated, right? Because the reality is that the answer can be unique to different people. We all have different feelings about what we attribute to feelings of success, what we attribute to feeling fulfilled. All of us have different answers to these questions. But what I will say is, no matter what, there are some variables that are consistent, no matter who you are, and no matter what it is that you aim to do for your life. So to me, the simplest way I look to go about this is categorizing life in health, wealth, and relationships. And those are the big three umbrellas that really everything else sits under. So let's talk about them in a little bit more detail. So first and foremost, your health. Now, I remember hearing the saying that when you don't have your health, you have only one problem. And when you do have your health, you feel like you have 99 problems in the world. And what it means is, if you think about when you're healthy, generally day to day, you're thinking, I've got to deal with bills, I've got to deal with stress, I've got to deal with this going on, I've got to deal with that going on. But as soon as your health is taken away from you, you sit there and you're only concerned about one thing, aren't you? Which is getting your health back. And so health, arguably, is the most important variable that you have to seek to control. Because without it, nothing else really matters, right? You can't focus on building and attaining wealth if you don't actually have your health intact. You can't focus on being there for your family, being a family man, if you don't actually have your health intact. So number one is actually optimizing for your health to make sure that you're in a situation where you can actually be the man that you're set out to be in this world. So the question becomes, what can be done to optimize health? And what can you do? And I've studied this endlessly, certainly over recent years, as I'm getting that little bit older as the years go on. And it's really a lot simpler than people often attribute it to. If you just look at the two core categories, right? You've got exercise and you've got your diet and your nutrition. And when those two things are dialed in, you have all of the levers that you need to be a healthy individual. The challenge that most people have is the consistency with both of those things. So the consistency with actually exercising regularly and being able to get out there and get that done. And then the next bigger component, which I think for most people is actually a larger component, is the nutrition, right? And it's being able to eat well and eat in a holistic way that actually fuels your body instead of solely eating for pleasure. So some of the principles I have in place is, when it comes down to exercise, it has to be part of your routine and an absolute non-negotiable. You can't live and operate from a place of when you just wake up and then you look at, okay, maybe I exercise today, maybe I don't. Not at all. It's all got to be based on a routine and a system, which means that you wake up and you should know what your training days are and exactly what you're doing. And if you know that you're not the best at controlling these variables, you need to have someone to drive accountability, i.e. a personal trainer. I actually hired a personal trainer a few months ago, and it's been one of the best decisions I made in recent times, because as much as I would be deemed as disciplined by traditional standards, at the same time, having that trainer, what it means is I don't even have to think about what workout I'm going to do that day. I simply turn up to the gym and I do whatever he tells me to do. It's as simple as that. I know the days I'm training, and then the routines are mixed up by him. So there's very low friction to me actually going out there and training, and the less friction you have, the much easier it is to stay consistent with that very thing. So what I recommend is, if you know that you can't really trust yourself to have the discipline or to create the system or to do what you need to do to have consistency with that, get a trainer, let them take care of the exercise side of the house. Now, the other side is the nutrition, which I would argue for most people they find even more challenging. So again, you need to have some principles around this. I like to turn everything in my life into a system. And so for most people, you're going to want to create some level of balance, right? Because you're not going to be able to sustain living in a way where 100% of the time you're just eating clean and you're only eating clean. So you've got to create a situation where you know it's something you're going to be able to keep up. So the way I like to look at it is you want to be 90% clean, and then 10% of the time you can bring in some of the treats and some of the things that you know you love that maybe aren't the best for you, but will help you to keep some semblance of balance in your life. So that's often the way I like to look at it. There's also what I would say are just some superfoods that you should make sure you're incorporating in your diet weekly. Things like ginger, things like turmeric, oranges, lemon, lime. I like to make a bit of a concoction with all of those things in it. And that's one of the best things you can have to make sure that you don't get sick, to make sure that you don't get ill. And so you want to build these types of formulas, have them once or twice a week. And I find that I just don't get ill. I don't get sick no matter how hard I train. I'm always good to go. So those are just some of the core things to consider when it comes to your health. Ultimately, the message there is to know and understand that it is the most important variable to control, because without it, you don't have anything else. The other bit I should add to health is stress. Stress, they call it the silent killer, right? And especially with someone like myself or any entrepreneurs out there, one of the difficult things is actually controlling stress levels. Because when you're working in a very demanding role, you're building a business, something like that, stress can be a bit of a default, right? And we learn to operate through stress and with stress. But there's good types of stress, i.e. if you're in danger, you need certain systems in your body to fire and activate so that you can flee from that danger or identify it and get away from it. But operating through stress is not healthy, and it's not something that you want to maintain day to day. And so super important that you have routines where you can detox, let your body rest and reset and recharge. All of that is then going to allow you to be far more effective the following day. The big challenge for us entrepreneurs, anyone who's pushing at a high level, is we can often see rest and recovery as if it's like taking time out and as if we're not being productive. And I learned the big reframe is to actually see rest and recovery as a very important, critical part of being able to operate at the highest level. Because without it, you're not going to be able to be productive the following day because you're burning the candle at both ends, right? And so I'm even looking out here on the water. If you can see that guy out there on his kayak, it's a great example of he just looks completely at peace, super tranquil. And I do things like what I'm doing right now, this type of walk, to put myself in a situation where I can also recharge. So the next component is then wealth. And I would say one of the biggest things with wealth is people don't have a great relationship with the word wealth. Certainly when I was growing up, in many ways, I feel like the word wealth was surrounded by feelings of jealousy, feelings of envy, looking at people that were wealthy with some kind of disdain. And the most important thing I've come to learn when it comes to wealth in general as a term is it is not in any way an ugly word. It's actually a necessity. In order for you to have full expression in your life and to be able to actually reach the heights that you want to reach in your life, you need to become wealthy. You actually have to set it as a part of your mission. You have to set it as a part of your purpose. Because again, to have full expression in life, you need to have wealth. And the reason for that is because wealth breeds optionality. It puts you in a situation where you have the choice around what you want to do, when you want to do it, how you want to do it. Not only that, it puts you in a situation where you can sustain for yourself, you can sustain for those around you, and it allows you to live in a way where you can act in service of other people at a bigger scale. And so the more you get in your mind this mindset that wealth is an ugly term, or being rich is an ugly term, or earning money is an ugly term, the further you're actually going to push it away from you. Whereas the closer and the clearer you get in your mind that it's a duty, it's an obligation, it's a necessity, it's something that you need to attain to give yourself the space and the freedom and the optionality, the more you'll find it will come to you, because you're putting yourself on a positive frequency. You're going to attract more like-minded people that have wealth and abundance, and it will put you in a situation where I can assure you, you'll go much further, much faster than you probably can think about even right now. And so start to reframe the way that you look at the concept of wealth. It's a necessity. It's one of the key 3 pillars, right? And so we've got health, we've got wealth, and then we've got relationships. And relationships are categorized in twofold. One is romantic, and then the second component is your friendships, the people around you. Now, from a romantic standpoint, it's ultimately all about having a partner who is understanding, supportive, and a part of the mission. They say, and I agree, that your choice of partner is arguably the most important decision of your whole entire life, because you get it wrong and it can reshape the entirety of your life for the negative, but you get it right and it can act as jet fuel to getting you to the next level of wherever you're trying to go in your life. And so you can see it has the potential to really make or break your life. And especially as a man, the decision of the woman that you choose to spend the rest of your life with, the decision around the woman that you choose to have children with, again, it's absolutely everything, because it can completely and fundamentally reshape your whole future and your whole existence. And so it's not something to be rushed. It's something, to me, that needs to have criteria around it. It needs something that has to have thought behind it, right? Taking the time to actually say to myself, what type of woman would fit well into my lifestyle? What type of woman would help to unlock my next phase of growth? What is she? How does she look? How does she act? How does she think? How does she operate? And actually taking the time to write this stuff down. Too often, we just end up going through these types of topics in cruise control. We just wait and allow things to just pass us by, right? And we just run into a woman and it's like, hey, she's kind of cool, she's kind of nice, but you don't have any frameworks or criteria from which you can actually evaluate, is this the type of woman who's going to actually be helpful and supportive for where I need to go in my life? So you've got to write it down. I've got a list on my phone of the characteristics, the DNA, the thought patterns of what this woman would look like. And it makes it very easy to be able to understand whether that woman is in front of you right now when you're actually having a conversation with someone, because you've taken the time to actually write down and think about and operationalize who that woman is, what she looks like and what she stands for. And so take the time to really give it some thought. Don't allow it to be a passive activity. Take the time to write it down. The other component of relationships is your friendships, are your friendships. It's the people around you, right? The people that you're spending time with during downtime. And especially as men, as humans, we are wired for social connection. So anyone who says being alone is valuable, it can be a helpful tool in many ways to be able to be comfortable operating in isolation. But ultimately having social connection forms a very important part of just simply being a human. So don't ignore that. Again, have a healthy relationship with that, and it will help you to cultivate more of the right types of people in your life. I've found that the more I've shaped my mindset around seeing it as an important variable to have friends in a healthy social circle, the more I've gravitated great people into my life, people that are much more like-minded, that are really pushing hard for what they want to achieve in their life, pushing hard for more. And ultimately, it's helped me to create a circle that I can really be proud of, people that I tremendously value and who are helping to unlock the next phase of growth. And I'm doing the exact same for them. You've got to ask yourself, when you're at that dinner table with that friend, or you're sitting down for a coffee, ask yourself, are the two of you pushing each other forward? Are the two of you helping each other to really see life in a way that helps you to bear more fruit, to grow more, to learn more, to earn more? Is that the dynamic of the conversation? Or are you sitting across a table where all someone is talking about is the history and the past and things that ultimately take you backwards or pull you down? You need people that help to move you forward, right? You're not here to live in the past or to walk in reverse. You're here to continue to push forward, to unlock a new phase of growth. And so if needs be, you have to let certain people go and you have to cultivate net new people into your life who can help to take you to that next phase of growth. And that's not always easy for people to do, to think about who they've known from childhood, who they've known from young. And it's like, well, how can I let go of those relationships? But you've got to ask yourself, what's more important? Is it you getting to the next level? Or is it you just doing things to pander to societal norms? Life is too short for that. You need to put yourself in a position where you prioritize yourself first. And only once you prioritize yourself can you then be able to help others. And it's actually through the way that you operate, you'll actually be able to better help those friends, because they'll see you as the example of what's possible. They'll see you as the person who's able to go further. I've been through this exact same experience in my life with several people that I grew up with earlier in life. And the reality is the way that I'm thinking, the way that I'm operating, there's just a big disconnect. And I could see it when we would be spending time. And I had to start to make the difficult decision to spend less time with them. And it doesn't mean that they're out of my life, but I had to partition where they were because I knew I had more to achieve. And ever since I did that, funnily enough, life has skyrocketed even further, because every ounce of my time is being invested valuably with the right types of people. And so you have to be able to get into that mindset where you're willing to make that decision. Now, as we've touched on those three bases, when you have your health optimized, you have the right relationship with wealth and you've started to build it, and then you have the right relationships in your life, that is how you create fulfillment in your life. That is actually how you get to a situation where you start to feel a level of satisfaction with where your life is at. Now, the key here is to not allow yourself to get to a place where you feel fully satisfied, right? You need to be able to be in a situation where you always have a level of hunger that pushes you forward to unlock a new phase of growth. And so the reason that I choose health, wealth, and relationships as categories is because they don't have an end state. You can always do more to optimize your health. You can always do more to optimize your wealth, and you can always do more to optimize your relationships. And so that's why those three categories exist. And so now you've got to put yourself in a situation where you commit to the journey with the knowledge that it's not a destination. It's not a destination or an end state to get to the point where you've optimized those three areas. It's something that you will continue to do, and you'll continue to do non-stop over an extended period, over really the entirety of your life. It's something that you will continue to do. And so that's why I choose those three areas. And the key for you is to think about those three as the big umbrella topics. You can then create subcategories underneath each one, right? For example, spirituality might be important to you. You can put that under one of the categories. There might be other things that you feel give you a sense of fulfillment, so you can create those under those categories. And as you go through this exercise, write everything down, right? Write down what fulfillment looks like for you under those three umbrella topics, and then start to write out the principles of the actions that you're going to or you're willing to take in order to strive for that year in particular to truly achieve. And what I do is I write a letter to myself in reverse. So I write a letter to myself as if it's the 1st of January for the year ahead, and I write everything that I've achieved under those three categories. And then what that helps me do is to feel and experience those three variables as if I'm already at that end state, as if I've already achieved all of the things in that letter, as if it's the following year. So you should take the time to do the exact same thing. Either write a letter to yourself or write a forward-looking statement of, this is who I am, this is what my physique looks like, this is what my health has been like, this is what my relationships have been like, this is how much I'm earning, this is where I'm living. And the more that you write it out, the more that you say it to yourself, the more you feel it, and then you start to cultivate all of the circumstances and scenarios in your life that will help you to achieve exactly what you've written down at the level that you're looking to achieve it as well. So to me, this is how you attain fulfillment in life. It's all about health, wealth, and relationships, having the right attitude and mentality towards all three of those variables, creating your subcategories, then writing out the principles and the actions that will allow you to maximize each of those areas each year on a lifelong pursuit and a lifelong journey of attaining mastery in those three categories based on what success looks like for you. I hope this video has been helpful and valuable. As you can see, it's very hot out here in sunny Dubai. And so if you want to talk about any of this in a bit more detail, I leave my socials in the description box below, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.